I
I'm
wore purple
excited.
because I have royalty on.
Well, thank you. I wore gray because it was the next one in line, and that's why.
That's a good way to do it. That's a good way to do it. So there is a lot for me to say to introduce you. So may I do that first, and then we
If
can.
if you'd like, but by all means, do truncate that. That's a lot of words. I don't read that.
It's not my fault, man. I didn't do all this stuff.
I just tell people chop it all out and then read the part they like.
Well, you've got some crazy good books that lots of people have read and said were really great, right? So, Trust Agents and the Social Media 101 Tactics and Tips. I mean, you're old guard and current, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know how that works exactly, except that I always felt it was weird when people kind of rest on their laurels. So I
Mm,
just figured, if we don't keep with what's
yeah,
next and what's now, then how good is that going to work over time?
I got it. I acknowledge you for staying relevant and for continuing to hump it. It's really great.
Thank you.
So what I love is that you and Christopher Penn launched PodCamp way back in the day. That is just super cool. Super cool.
Yeah, 2006. We had I had attended a podcast academy event. Doesn't
Hmm.
exist anymore. And then we went to Bar Camp, which is kind of like the software kind of version of this sort of thing. It was an unconference kind of format. And I looked at him and he looked at me and I said, we could totally do one of these. He goes, yeah, sure. How hard could it be? It was hard. And then on the last day of the first ever event that we did was September 2006, we said, let's totally open source this and make it so that anyone can do one. So
Love
there's
it.
been PodCamp in Cape Town. There's PodCamp in Perth,
That's awesome.
Australia. We did one in Stockholm, Sweden to kind of get Europe going. And that's it. And they just kind of roll on their own now.
Mm, super cool. Super cool. Well, I'm a big fan of both of you. And I've been working your 3 words thing. I can remember a coach bringing that to a group of us women business owners back in 2006 when you started it. She was
Wow.
enthralled. And I have 4 words for this year. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, they're peace, power, space, and freedom.
I think those are super powerful words. I think they're
Thanks.
grand.
Thanks. Would you like to share yours?
Sure. One is packaging, which is to make sure that you package the stuff that you're creating so that people get a better understanding of what you're trying to get at. One's a
Hmm.
kind of fake word, so it could be 2 words, but it's called structure quince. And the other was push. Just keep pushing, kind of like
Structure. Yeah, pushing.
structure
Got it.
quince. So structure and sequence,
Ah, okay. I got it.
because you need both. Like, a lot of people work on
Hmm.
structures, but then they don't work on sequence. So it's kind of like, if you're packing your car to go on vacation, you can get all the things in, but what you really got to think about is, in what order am I going to take these out when I get to the campground?
Mm.
Because I'm going to need my things in a certain way.
And
Like
what are you
I
going to need on the drive to
flashlight
keep the children
first, and
happy or the, yeah,
exactly
yeah. Uh-huh.
snacks out on the edges, snacks on the borders for the kids or the other people in the car.
Yeah.
It's big.
Yeah. Excellent. Wisdom. I hear wisdom in that.
Thanks.
Yeah. 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 So I'm just going to dive in if you don't mind.
You go.
Thank you. So we started this show at the beginning of coronavirus saying, okay, how are we going to prepare for the rebound? Because people were affected in all different kinds of ways. So I'm really curious to hear, what are you seeing are the positives that have come out of COVID-19?
Well, it's a weirdly backhanded positive, but for someone who's spent well over a decade saying, "Hey, everybody, you need to be a little more attentive to what you're doing digitally," and everybody going, "We totally are," when they're totally not. It's like when you ask your little kid, "Did you brush your teeth?" and they're like, "Totally," and the toothbrush is bone dry.
Or your adult friends, did you wash your hands?
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, America. So anyway, yes. And so I feel like the sort of negative positive of this outbreak is that everyone had to realize, oh gosh, the we're not doing what we thought we were doing with digital. And so that just means, can we connect at a distance? Can we do all of the functions of business at a distance? Can we generate leads and make people care? And everyone said the minute this all started locking down, oh, we can make some more ads. Well, there's only so many ads, right? There's only so much real estate for that. There's only so much interest in that. And at the end of it all, someone still has to kind of be there to talk about stuff and create content that could go with an ad. So to me, it was like stamping a validation card that I've been carrying around for 10 years with no stamps on it.
Nice. I got it. And how will all this help business?
I think that there's a lot of pluses. One is that the retail behavior experience, by the way, so B2C mostly, there people have suddenly kind of caught on that they should use their mobile device to at least start or be part of the ordering process of anything they're buying. So it starts easy with things like restaurants. Are these people even open, or can I order takeout on my phone, and that kind of a thing. And then it'll start to permeate the rest of the system. And even today there are a lot of B2B elements of that I think are just ridiculous the way they're operating. So for instance, if you're like a contractor at a building site and you're building a bunch of corporate office space or something like that, if you suddenly find yourself a little shy of the order and you need a whole bunch of screws or something like this, I'm making up things, I don't build buildings. So let's pretend you need a whole lot of screws. You still got to get on a phone, call a human, ask a human something, fax things back and forth, and all this other kind of shenanigans. Instead of, why isn't there just a really simple, quick clicking kind of way to get stuff done? So other technologies that people really didn't understand or have a use for, like Internet of Things, for instance, are suddenly making more sense. Artificial intelligence, augmented reality, all these kinds of tools maybe have a little more buoyancy now that people have seen some serving suggestions by being locked in.
Mm-hmm. Got it. So it showed a lot of missings, and then it
I
showed
think so.
value and relevance for things that people maybe didn't think had those.
I feel that way. And I think that,
Mm-hmm.
for a guy who's been selling online courses since 2012, you go, oh, I could learn remotely when I'm forced to learn remotely, and
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And everyone says nothing takes away face to face. Nothing except for a worldwide pandemic takes away face to face. And then you got to learn how to do your business
Careful what you
very far
say.
away.
Nothing about. Mm-hmm.
So
No, great. Yeah, my business has been remote since 2004,
there we have
distributed
it.
model. So I hear you. So what do you see as possible now because of COVID-19 that wouldn't have been without it?
I see a few things. One is I see a lot more opportunity for collaboration, either in small or larger size businesses, because there's just so much. We learned a lot of things about physical distribution of resources. For instance, food in America, for instance, just was crazy, and we realized that for the system to work, it was this sort of mass consumption, nonstop hamster wheel. And when any piece of that slowed for even a little while, huge disruptions happened. Well, in the wake of some of those disruptions, a lot of businesses have faltered, floundered, or otherwise been dented. A friend of mine, actually, I have to circle back with him. He just acquired like 3 more companies, and it was just because the way things were falling out. These people were all, suddenly not as in demand, not selling as much, and he had some cash and was able to pick up these companies, and that means he was able to give some jobs to some of these people and not kick everybody to the curb. He was
Mm-hmm.
able to preserve a good piece of software that other people wanted and this platform that uses it. And so I think that collaboration is one of the big secret wonderful outcomes of this. And there's a lot of pain that goes with that collaboration. It's always important to remember that, every time you see one of those cute, jolly Halloween pop-up stores, that means another retail business went out. But there's a lot of chances where if people really kind of rethink who they consider their allies, that there's some real obvious wins that could be had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They could use 3 words so that they could see things that from more dimensions than just one.
One would hope. I mean, seeing things like airlines, who also had hotel programs and rent a car kind of relationships and all that, they're making, people are flying less, so they're marketing some of the other facets of their business. I'm seeing, for instance, with JetBlue. So there's a lot of chances for looking for a little diversity to make your sales opportunity a little better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, diversity, collaboration, looking newly. Yeah, got it.
Indeed.
Great. So what are you seeing? I noticed that at your website that you have completely, it occurred to me like you have retooled a story leader to be about the time, like everything read current to me. I didn't get through everything, but uh, I really hear that you're in the moment, like with it as it is and as it isn't. Are you seeing that happen elsewhere? Or are you an outlier?
It's really interesting to me to kind of surf around other people's websites and see what's going on. So one of several roles that I've had is a lot of professional speaking and a lot of consulting type business. So 91% of that revenue went away for myself and a lot of people. Like suddenly there were
Mm-hmm.
no conferences. We're not getting paid to speak X, Y, and Z place. And so a lot of friends of mine who all suddenly had no work to do, they all bum rushed one specific concept, which is I'll be a virtual speaker. I can do really cool virtual events. And, all you have to do is buy 2 extra cameras, buy a couple of nicer lights, and you're a virtual speaker. You know what I mean? It's not rocket surgery, but for people who have just a tiny enough amount of tech savvy to come up with a couple different video views, they look, worlds ahead of the person who's on Zoom where it's still the kind of look up your nose angle of the camera and all that.
Yep. Yep.
But I never like to swim in any other people's lanes. I never like to kind of do their thing. So right before coronavirus hit, I had just launched this project called Story Leader, which was the idea that I wanted to do leadership training, leadership workshops and information about how to use storytelling internally inside a business, as well as kind of tangentially externally. I mean, I've sold marketing and sales information for years. But
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, there's a lot of people who are going to have to work at a distance right before the coronavirus. I said, this would be really good if you knew how to communicate better, how to be a lot more succinct, how to be a lot more brief, how to be compassionate, how to share,
Mm.
confidence building material and all that sort of detail. And coronavirus hit and I was like, oh, well, I just changed about 11 words and I'm basically spot on the trend. So that's how that happened.
Nice. Nice. Wow. You just reminded me, I watched in preparation for today. Again, thank you. I watched your interview with Steve and Carol Garfield,
Oh, sure.
and you guys were talking about how when the networks all had to go at home, what was the word? Sequester at home. That's not the right word, but you know what they said, shelter at home.
Sure.
That Jimmy Fallon and all these guys were, Steve said he was sending them email tips on what to do with their camera and their lighting to get better. And then he watched them quickly order more equipment, and because it had been done for them. And yeah, so when you're talking about people adjusting, yeah, that was funny. I don't know
It
the
is
world.
interesting to note too, like all the local newscasters started doing their work from home as well. And the odd person out invariably was the weather person, because the weather person, unless they had invested in a green screen somewhere, couldn't stand next to a
Mm-hmm.
wall and point at stuff that wasn't there like they're used to doing. And so they had to talk about really dumb science projects and all that. It really kind of makes you reconsider those humans. Like, I'm sure they're lovely, but do you really need someone to talk for a really slow, long amount of time that is going to be 74 tomorrow? You
Oh
don't.
goodness.
You ask Google, hey Google, what's the weather tomorrow? And it goes this much. And you know what you need to know. So I feel like Fallon and those guys as well, the evening guys, they lost a bunch of their credibility because their ability to deliver things like carpool karaoke goes right to zero when you
Yeah.
can't carpool with your musician acts and all that. And, you know,
Mm-hmm.
having lots of funny games with the Roots isn't as fun if everybody's in another building. And
Yeah.
so I don't know. I think that entertainment most surely kind of showed a different face. And I feel like the country in general kind of got a little tired of watching really wealthy people, cry into their, I don't even know any fancy word names, so I can't tell you, Louis Vuitton purses or whatever. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and I saw Cardi B crying because she had to eat cereal one day because she really wished she had sushi. And I thought, wow. And I feel like there is a certain
Context
sort
is
of
decisive. Mm-hmm.
eat the rich kind of experience going on in this time frame as well, which the beauty is that we've all really gotten a chance to reconsider our goals over the last handful of months as well.
For sure. So, speaking of that, reconsidering goals, is there anything that you've started doing or stopped doing in your business in these times?
Uh, so, I mean, my business had been a little bit messy for the few years right before this one. And I was like kind of losing ground in some places just because I had taken my eye off a few things and hoped for something that didn't happen. And so I had to really, at the very beginning of this year, I was like, okay, I'm rolling up the sleeves. I'm really going to come back now. And then, quarantine hit. So in a weird way, I've got sort of tabula rasa, I've got the clean slate. I could do whatever I want. And so I've done some different things. One is that I realized that it's so easy to be forgotten anyway. You know what I mean? So the last 3 years, I was not promoting myself very much. And while kind of in my soul, that feels great. Like, you know, self-promoting people are like really annoying. If
Okay.
people don't kind of remember you top of mind, they don't remember to call you and hire you for things, which is how you get your bag of money. And so I launched a video show. I launched a daily video show because I have to be stupider than everybody. And so weekdays I do a show. And I mean, it's not a revenue product per se, but it's already got me two business opportunities and also two weird sponsorship opportunities. So I'm very, um, I'm aware that I'm not going to be a TV show producer my whole life, but I'm excited about the fact that in redoing this, I was testing some real basics of marketing, like, gee, some graphics would be nice. I'm super anti graphics. I'm super like low tech. I'm very into like making everything just very light and somewhat sloppy. But what I
Mm-hmm.
found is if I put up pretty pictures on Instagram, a lot of people make a comment. And if I put up a little ad with a picture of the ad, it gets like way more traffic than if I just put up a link to something. And so I
Mm-hmm.
kind of had to remind myself that everybody wasn't like me and everybody likes the shiny. And so maybe I have to put
Mm-hmm.
some shiny back in.
Got it. Okay. So I hear play and experimentation, and that you took a bit of a break, and now you're back at it and eating more of your own dog food.
Boy, am I eating a lot more of my own dog food. Yeah. No, I mean, I think, you know, one of the other dangers that happens with people who do things like sell marketing or sell information about marketing is, you know, if you're far afield from everything, it's really easy to send platitudes out. It's really easy to launch, you know, what sounds like good marketing advice. But I hadn't really, you know, fire tested it. I hadn't really said, if I don't do this well, then I'm not going to get the attention. And if I don't get the attention, then I'm not going to get what my business goals are. And so with all that in mind, I'm like, oh, I need to do more of this. Oh, I need to try this. I even, you know, was working with someone who does a little SEO. They're a web person, makes sites and things like that. And they said, hey, have you ever looked at the
Mm-hmm.
SEO on your site? I said, never. I rank for stupid things and blah, blah, blah. And in that process, I went, oh, there's a lot of gaping holes in what I've got going on that I could fix. I could get better at the way I make my content, number one, just to make it a little more SEO friendly. But then there were like some really, you know, there's only so much that the hygienist can do versus the oral surgeon. So I'm going to go in and do a little bit more of that. So that's something that's changed is I
Got it.
decided to take search a little minor, tiny little bit more serious. And I say this because, you know, if for endless amount of time, I forever just sort of tease people when it comes to SEO and things like that, because I showed up right before the easy days were over. I showed up right as
Mm,
like a Penguin and Panda were
those
starting
were
to come in,
great. Those were
and
great
everybody
days.
suddenly had to make content that people wanted and trust, not just stuff it with links. And
Doggone it.
yeah. And so then I realized that, you know, all I could tell you how to write good blog posts, but I never circled back to say, so now what do SEO people do? Seems
Mm-hmm.
like you're out there. And that's a change I made over the last few months as well.
Nice. Oh, well, I insist you let me do a work session for you on the house. It's part of my pitching, and the team would be absolutely thrilled.
Well, you are lovely. I should disclose that one of your brethren is already shaking up some of my stuff just to see what he can find, because
Oh, nice.
I was told that
Great.
I was told that I was a bad person. But you know what it means to me though is it means that I will get the chance to ask you questions as well,
Yeah, yeah.
because
No, please. It
you know, it
would be
used to
my
be that it
honor.
was only a dark art in the past, and I think it's finally turned that right corner that it's, you know, kind of a utility fundamental that needs to happen as well.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that until you do it, then you're kicking yourself that you didn't do it in the past because you realize how well it works, but you had holes in your face that you had to fix before you got to something that doesn't necessarily get worse over time. You know what I mean?
Yes, I
So
very
I have
much
a
do.
problem generating urgency in this because people don't realize. So we've just started playing with the cost of inaction calculator. That's nice because you can get some
Oh,
nice big, you know, six figures and beyond in the next 6 months that people are like, wait a minute, what?
right.
That's
That's
helpful.
good. I mean, that's an important visibility. I mean, sort of communicating the need is one of those primary pieces of marketing that we all forget
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Everybody gets the need, but they all say, oh, talk to me in 2 months. Love it.
Let me show you what 2 months does.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
cost. Let me show you what that's going to cost, right? Yep, yep.
that's
So
smart.
I'd like to pivot just a little bit in this conversation. It's still relevant, but I really am interested in the idea of, there are people who consistently take lemons and make lemonade. And they have that resiliency. They have that something, where they can see the blank slate and come up with something on it, or they see something on the slate that looks blank to others or looks negative. So I'm very interested in, as we hopefully come out of this coronavirus period, continuing this theme in the conversations of how do we all train ourselves to build and develop our resiliency so that we are, we're in a good spot no matter what. And we have that confidence and the ability to keep moving forward.
I mean, there's a bunch of different pieces to that. One is that a lot of times when we kind of get thumped by something, we take it far too personally. Like we just really, it's probably something I did. Maybe they don't like me. No one loves me. As a creative person, it is forever like, my 7th grade birthday party, and I invited everybody to school and I'm the only guy there. It is always that, not enough people came. How come no one saw my show?
That's the
And
laughter of recognition, man.
I hear you.
Just to be clear.
It is, so you have to, like, that's one of the first things you have to learn how to scrape. The other thing you have to kind of kick out the door is accept neither praise nor criticism, because resilience is built on you're working your thing and you're just going to work your thing. The other challenge is, I had a really interesting moment of this the other day. The other interesting challenge is that a lot of times people don't quite see where you're going yet because you haven't illustrated it well enough, and you might have to repeat it a bunch of times. And so a lot of times we give up way too early on something just because no one quite sees it yet. When those scooters suddenly littered the West Coast of the United States, and you could swipe your card and it would take you $3 or something to scooter around town like a weirdo. When that first came, everyone's like, this is the stupidest idea ever. And next thing you know, they're a multi-billion-dollar valuation. If 10 years ago we had said, hey, would you get in a car with a complete stranger and let them drive you somewhere? You'd say, what is this, a kidnapping app? And now there's, at least 2 majors, and so we never see it. Like, you can't, we can't, almost nobody can. The people who make it can't. What happens is they try something, it didn't work, they pivot a little, they pivot. So resilience comes from taking a lot of shots. I play a lot of video games. I play a lot of shooter video games, where it's you versus a human, some other part of the world with pretend digital guns, and we're shooting at each other. And what happens is if my gun requires a lot of precision, I will miss every time. It's built into my gamer tag. It's bad aim, bad jokes, because I can't shoot. I can't hit anybody. But if you give me a gun that I can use a lot of bullets, I'll get you. I just have to use all the bullets I can find anywhere in the vicinity. I'll have to go find more bullets. I'll have to, hang on a minute, guys. I'll collect more bullets, shoot some more at them. They'll be like, you're not winning. And I'm like, I'm going to win. And you do. They always, Wayne Gretzky, what was it? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
Well, my variation on that is if you take 100 shots and you hit 2, it's usually 2 better than anyone else who took none.
True.
And that kind of helps you a little, because 100% of the shots you don't take makes you want to punch someone. It's like one of those like live, laugh, love things that you just don't want to hear. But if I take 100 shots and beat you only because 2 won, that's like your cost of not doing it thing. You go, oh man, I just could have tried 100 stupid things. And the other thing is we all think that everyone sees us all the time, Leslie. We think that everyone's watching our every move. I had a friend like, I'm going to be launching my website today, but I'm not ready. So launch it tomorrow. We announced it. To whom? CNN? Is Queen Elizabeth coming by? Are there aliens landing for this? Who gives a? So anyway, it's all good. No one cares. No one cares about it as much as you do. And just do it, and you'll find that it always works. And if you mess up, do everything you can. Do the 3 A's. Acknowledge. Oh man, did I just mess up? Apologize. I'm really sorry. That didn't go the way I intended it to go. And act. Here's what I'm going to do to fix this. Here's what I'm going to do so it doesn't happen again. That's it. You're done. You did all the things you have to do.
Nice. No, that's great.
You're
so
great.
What? Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Well, it takes one to know one. Oh, hey, the dog's up. Hey, Thor. Want to see the
Thor.
puppy? This is a Great Dane. It's a Harlequin pattern. Isn't he beautiful?
Oh, I love Great Danes.
Yeah, he's a sweetie
I
pie.
play a dog game that I play with dogs of any size, and I once did it with a Great Dane named Babe. And it's that game where, you know, when dogs outdoors and they kind of like spread their paws a little lower and dunk their head, and they're like, we're gonna attack each other right now for fun. I did
Yep.
it with a Great Dane. She was
Oh no.
170 pounds. I'm like 260, so I'm still bigger than this creature, but 170 pounds bolting at you. I felt it for a few weeks.
Especially they're like bullets because they're so trim and focused, aren't
They
you?
are.
Yeah.
He looks mighty. Sorry, people who can only listen to this. I feel for you already.
We'll do the video. We always do the video too.
Good plan.
But so what surprised you?
It'd be the coronavirus in general. What surprised me?
That or the turn of events in your business and what you're doing with your marketing?
Everything surprises me. There's that one of those would you rathers where they're like, would you be rather, be surprised by nothing or surprised by everything? And I thought, man, that's gotta be really annoying to be surprised by everything. There's lemons, water, it's cold, that would be annoying. But the opposite would be terrible if you weren't surprised by anything, if there was no wonder, whatever. So I think most people kind of argue that they should rather be surprised. What surprises me is, humans absolute clinging to the inability to follow basic, simple, scientifically obvious information. That's one. And that could somehow become political. That surprised me. What surprised me is just how different the political landscape has become. And I'm a very not political person, but the last few years, another thing that has surprised me is that I've been made to be, like I have to be in some way, or people that I care about and movements that I care about and rights that I care about are being attacked right now. And so what surprises me is how that's trickled to business. I read an article a million years ago, it might have been 3 3/4 years ago, that Jimmy Fallon had to get off the fence because all the other nighttime TV show guys had an opinion on the newly elected President Donald Trump. And again, this is not a political statement. It was just an interesting note that they were dinging Jimmy Fallon for trying to stay neutral. You can't be Switzerland. And I think that's surprised me a lot. And I think that, if I had to pick any one, I would just say that it's a time where my message to business is you can't pretend not to notice. You can't pretend not to care. You do have to plant your flag in the ground, and you're going to lose customers one way or another, but you're going to gain some from the side that you put the flag on. So you got to pick, and it's not in the political sense of, one party versus another, but just pick whatever the thing is.
Take a stand.
Anyone,
whatever,
anyone. Great Danes for life, it's fine. But I feel that, this video show that I launched, one of the things that I've been doing with it is as many people of color, as many women, as many lesser heard voices, as many, people from spots in the fringe that don't normally get some attention. What little shining spotlight I have left, can I give it to other people? That's my way of passing the mic.
Yeah, no, I got it. And your point earlier about Fallon, it's almost like become like a target audience thing. Vanilla just doesn't work, and nobody's interested in vanilla because everybody's polarized.
They really are, and that means it's harder for even just a basic marketer. You just want to sell your dumb socks. I just love socks, and I want you to buy my socks. Well, then those socks better have some hashtag on them, because it just seems that the noise,
or a charity project, or some bigger footprint.
A bigger footprint, Leslie. I like it. Your socks have a bigger footprint than other people. Oh, you're clever. Or a reduced footprint. Maybe they recycle plastic out of the ocean,
Right. Well, I've got big feet, so I would go for a reduced footprint if someone could promise me that and it didn't hurt. So is there a question I haven't asked you that you'd like me to?
Never. Nope. I think that's one of those weird interviewer questions that I've never quite understood. I mean, I always think about something really crazy the minute you ask it, like, so what do you think?
We've already talked about catching monkeys.
How about Pythagoras? Or,
I got it from interviewing. It's a great
That's
little,
what
I hate
people
to say
say.
it, but it's a great little trap. When you're interviewing somebody, they will say all kinds of crazy things at the end that show you who they are and help you sidestep missteps.
Interesting.
Hmm.
I wonder. I mean, it's an interesting. I mean, interviewing is a whole interesting process anyway, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
we just I'm not like that guy talking about his show, but we just did this episode today where it was a little different. The guy that I was speaking with was a little different live and in video than it was in email, and I was thinking, I wonder how I could have known, just so I could at least help him
Yeah.
understand how maybe to tune his performance.
Hmm.
And it was, I'll take it as my failure. But what I think is, how do you know to ask questions that don't get you exactly the answer you want? Like if I'm interviewing for a job and I'm like, Leslie, we like real we like starters, we like people who could just really start something. Are you a starter? I mean, who says no?
Right. Right. But you're supposed to ask, tell me about a time when you blah, 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 or whatever, right? Yeah. I'm happy. I have 3 actually really good tips for hiring that I'm happy to share if you
Fun.
want to hear them, if it's
Yeah, let's
helpful.
go. Ready, go.
Okay. So there's this book called Top Grading.
Mm-hmm.
The gent who wrote it used to work with Jack Welch at GE. And Jack attributes a
Ah,
lot, at least some of his success to this guy. The book's quite long. And the first half of it is why you should listen to it. So my recommendation is you go to the middle and you start listening to what the guy says. And he's got a software and an incredible system. If you had volume, you needed volume hires and HR would be great. But my 3 biggest takeaways from this book, which were well worth the read of the whole thing, were one is you give people a simple set of instructions for applying. So send an email to this address, use the subject line, and tell me these 3 things. And it doesn't even really matter what those are. It's just, can you follow instructions?
that's right.
Which most people cannot. So then you don't have to talk to those people who cannot follow instructions, who will make you crazy if you hire them. And then the second thing was at every stage in the interview process, you say, I will require you to set up calls with me, for me, with your former bosses and teammates. You don't do it for the current boss. And you have to set it up for me, right? So the C players are going to be gone because that won't work for them. The B players will be iffy, and the A players will be like, okay, yeah, because they know what the former bosses and teammates are going to say. Maybe they didn't stay in touch with everybody, but they know what they're going to say. So that makes it real easy. And then the third thing was, he has a list of qualities that are green, yellow, and red. So he recommends that before you interview, you create a list of your gotta haves, your nice to haves, and these would be bonuses, and I don't have to have them. And then you make sure that your gotta haves are green for all the people you're interviewing. Because when you need somebody and you're
Sure.
talking to them and you just, please work, you'll trick yourself. So if the things you have to have are green, that means you can teach it. Yeah, I didn't say this one so well. Rewind a little bit. But the green qualities are the teachable qualities. So if someone's
Got it.
disorganized, I can work with that, right? A yellow quality is I can teach it if they are really hungry for it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
What would that be right now?
Beats
I don't
me.
have it. Yeah.
I got
But a
nothing.
red, oh, sorry.
I got nothing.
Yeah. A red quality you can't teach. Someone's honest or has integrity or they're not.
You're right.
So if I require somebody in that, I've got that quality on there and it's a red quality and I'm really honest with myself and you don't have it, you're off the list.
Mm-hmm.
So those 3 things were awesome. And I'll Top Grading.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
it's a great book.
We'll add a note for top grading for your show notes.
Yeah, right. We'll make a note there. Bradford Smart. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Well,
And
thank you
he's
so much. The other reason I
got a
asked
good
that
name.
question is just because maybe there's something that you really want to talk about. Because I don't have a problem with you promoting yourself a bit or saying
I
something
already
great
did.
or a resource or
I
yeah.
seem
Okay.
great already. I seem amazing. Like I couldn't believe it.
Hey, that's right. I'm bomb.
Super
I like it.
positive. That's me.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
Well, I'm going to send you. You're welcome. Thank you. This is really fun.